Welcome to the edge. Not the edge they warned you about, but the one they never wanted you to find. Welcome to the pulse under the surface, to the fire that doesn't just burn, it calculates. To those who walked in to listen, this isn't noise. This is the frequency of predators. This is the sound of movement in silence. The word going around is loud now, isn't it? They're whispering it in corners, pretending they're not afraid, hiding fear behind smirks, disguising admiration with envy. You're too smart, too ruthless. That's what they're saying, like it's an insult, like it's a warning. But let me tell you, it's confirmation. Because here's the truth. The world only calls you too smart when they've realized they can't manipulate you. They call you too ruthless when their excuses don't survive your gaze. When you stop apologizing for being aware, they panic. When your eyes stay cold through storms and your mind keeps working while theirs shuts down, they panic. When you don't blink, don't flinch, don't back down, they panic. And that panic? That's power. Yours. Earning you titles they were hoping you'd never live up to. You see, they made a world that feeds on weakness. And when someone refuses to play weak, they label you a threat. And threats must be discredited. So they say, don't push it. As if your silence is a mercy. As if your patience is a leash. As if your vision is something borrowed. When the truth is, you built it, alone, in the dark, in the grind they swore would break you. You got smart because nobody was coming. You got ruthless because giving up wasn't an option. You adapted, not for applause, but for survival. And now, you're not just surviving, you're circling. They want to tell the story like you stumbled onto this path, like it was accidental, like it wasn't the result of every night you didn't sleep, every betrayal you didn't cry over, every step forward you took after being told it's over. You got smart the day you realized that smiles could lie. You got ruthless the day you understood that loyalty means nothing to the disloyal. You got here by burning what tried to bury you. So yes, the word is going around. Let them talk. Let them shake. Let them whisper warnings into the ears of people not built for your altitude. You don't fly to be seen. You fly because crawling disgusted you. You don't need their green lights. You are the light. You don't need their permission. You broke the mold. You don't ask anymore. You move, calculated, unapologetic, focused. And if you listen closely, there's a different kind of silence when you enter a room now. It's not emptiness. It's respect, disguised as fear. You don't shout because power doesn't need volume. You don't rush because power doesn't panic. You don't chase, you attract. Through control, through command, through presence. They say you're too much because they are too little for your standard. And they hate that your standard doesn't lower. Every time you refuse to fold, the weak get louder. Every time you win without explaining yourself, the insecure grow bitter. They say you're ruthless because you cut off dead weight. They say you're cold because you no longer bleed for people who watch you drown. They say don't push it because they feel that push and they know they can't survive it. They know if you push, you'll go through them like a storm. No hesitation, no apology, no return. But you don't push to destroy. You push because you were born to move, to build, to become. Not for approval, but for destiny. And that scares people, because they were never willing to bet on themselves. So they bet against you. They speak fear like it's fact. They hope your eyes will pause if enough of them doubt it, but it won't. Because you are not powered by praise. You are powered by purpose. You're too smart? Good. Intelligence means strategy. It means you see 5 moves ahead while they're still reacting to the last one. You see through lies, through people, through the illusions that keep most frozen in place. You see what must be done, and you do it. not for applause, but because it must be done. Because your future is not built by convenience. It's forged in fire. You're too ruthless? That's even better. Ruthless doesn't mean cruel. It means clear. It means you make decisions the soft can't handle. It means you walk alone when the crowd turns coward. It means you don't confuse kindness with compliance. You understand that sometimes mercy is manipulation. Sometimes silence is surrender, and you've had enough of both. So let them keep their labels. You wear them like armor. You walk with them into rooms where others flinch. You carry them into battles where others beg for safety. You speak truth in places where truth is feared. You act when others hesitate. You move when others stall. And when the time comes, I sell my eyes, and it will. When the world asks who stood tall when everything tried to break them, your name will not be whispered. It will be known. They warned you not to push it, but what they didn't realize is you've already pushed past everything they said you couldn't, and you're still climbing, still calculating, still building in silence. You don't roar, you rise. And those who don't understand that, they'll call it darkness. But it's not. It's depth, it's clarity, it's focus. It's being so aware of who you are and where you're going that nothing can stop you anymore. Because you got smart. So smart you see patterns before they happen. So smart you know that solitude is a weapon. So smart you stopped seeking validation and started creating results. And you got ruthless. Not to harm, but to protect. Not to destroy, but to win. Ruthless enough to cut off what dims your fire. Ruthless enough to walk away when the price of peace is your power. Ruthless enough to build your own path, even when they said there was none. And now, you've become what they never saw coming. That's why they talk. That's why they warn. That's why they whisper. Because deep down, they know. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to rise, to lead, to dominate. Not by force, by presence. Not by screaming, by strategy. Not by chance, by choice. You are the one they tried to write off, the one they said was too much, the one they feared wouldn't stay silent, the one who saw through the smoke, the one who became everything they pretended wasn't possible. So let the word keep going around. Too smart, too ruthless, good. You earned every syllable of that warning, and the only thing more dangerous than being underestimated is being right and ready. Because when they say, don't push it, what they're really saying is, don't show us how soft we've become. Don't remind us that comfort has dulled our edge, that fear has become our compass, that we gave up the mountain because the path looked too steep. But you didn't stop climbing. You didn't ask for the trail to be made easier. You sharpened yourself on the climb. You bled, broke, and rebuilt in silence. You saw the summit not as a destination, but as your obligation. And now you're here, not because you were lucky, but because you refused to quit. And that alone, that rattles the ones who settled. So no, you're not too smart. You're exactly as smart as you had to be to survive. And you're not too ruthless. You're exactly as ruthless as the game required. The world doesn't hand out mercy freely. It doesn't honor the polite. It respects force. It obeys precision. It bends to those who decide. And you decided a long time ago that you wouldn't fold, that failure wasn't final, that every no was a challenge, not a sentence. You chose to become dangerous, not to others, but to your own doubt. You buried your old limitations and swore never to dig them up again. The same people calling you ruthless now, they once called you naive. They said your dreams were impossible. They said your fire was foolish. They tried to reduce you to their fear, but you stayed cold. You stayed locked in. You listened, not to them, but to something deeper. A rhythm, a burn, a command inside you. And now you walk into places they still dream about. You own conversations they're too afraid to enter. You execute plans they can't even understand. And they hate that. Because deep down, they know. You didn't beat them with privilege. You beat them with discipline. And that word, discipline, it's your silent advantage. While they scrolled, you studied. While they complained, you worked. While they waited for motivation, you moved anyway. You trained your mind to endure discomfort. You trained your soul to thrive without applause. You became your own fuel, your own fire, your own momentum. And that's why now, when you speak, there's weight. When you act, there's impact. Because you didn't grow in front of them. You evolved outside of their permission. That's why they call it too much. Because they couldn't even do half of what you did and survive. But this is not about them. This is about you. About what you carry. About what you're building. You're not just walking with knowledge. You are walking with proof. Proof that pain didn't defeat you. That delay didn't derail you. That rejection didn't define you. You're walking with receipts of resilience. With the evidence of your endurance. Every scar is a stamp. Every silence you endured is a signature. And now that you're rising, now that you're owning your power, they want to question your methods. They want to rewrite your story. They want to say, don't push it, as if you haven't already pushed through worse. Let them talk. Let them judge. Let them assume. Because assumptions don't touch results. And results, they don't lie. Your actions are louder than their opinions. Your silence is stronger than their noise. Your mission is bigger than their misunderstanding. And if they can't grasp it, that's fine. You didn't come to be understood. You came to conquer, quietly, sharply, ruthlessly. You got smart, not in the way textbooks teach, but in the way pain teaches. Experience taught you patterns. Failure taught you patience. Loss taught you leverage. You know the weight of a fake friend. You know the silence of a dark season. You know what it means to rise from nothing. And all of that made you unshakable, not arrogant, aware, not distant, precise, not cold, strategic. And they mistake it all, because they don't understand the cost of evolution. They see your strength and think it was given. They don't see what was taken from you to become this clear. And ruthless, let's redefine it. Ruthless isn't cruel. Ruthless is clean. You don't waste time on the uncommitted. You don't tolerate betrayal twice. You don't stay where your presence is devalued. You walk away when things no longer align, not because you don't care, but because you care about your purpose more. That's not cold. That's clarity. That's control. That's what terrifies them, because in a world addicted to chaos, peace is powerful. In a world that fears confrontation, directness is dangerous, and you've mastered both. You can speak without screaming, move without warning, exit without a word, and the impact remains. That's the power of someone who knows their value, who protects their energy, who demands results, not reassurance. So let them say it. Let the word spread that you're too smart, that you're too ruthless, that you should slow down, be careful, play nice. Let them say you've changed, because you have. You're no longer carrying the guilt of making others uncomfortable with your growth. You're no longer shrinking to make them feel safe. You're no longer watering yourself down to be digestible. You are what you are, and you are done apologizing for it. The mission is too big. The stakes are too high. The game is too real. You have no interest in small talk or small goals. No patience for empty noise. You are building a future from stone, not sand. From silence, not noise. From vision, not imitation. You lead, not follow. You move, not wait. You execute, not hope. That is the difference. That is the danger. That is what they feel when you walk in. the difference between noise and force. And it's not just about proving them wrong. You're not fueled by revenge. You're fueled by something far more permanent: self-respect. You made a vow to yourself that you'd never go back, that you'd never let weakness speak louder than will, that you'd never let the voices outside drown the fire inside. You made a promise, and now you live by it. And every time they doubt you, it reminds you just how far above doubt you've risen. So, let them call it ruthless when you don't settle. Let them call it cold when you don't flinch. Let them call it arrogant when you choose yourself. Let them say, don't push it, because they feel the pressure. That's the sound of elevation. That's the sound of someone who refuses to dim. Because you got smart, you got ruthless, and you're just getting started. Because here's what they don't understand. You didn't become this by accident. You designed this, piece by piece, day by day. When others were escaping, you were enduring. When others were stalling, you were sharpening. And now that you're sharper than you've ever been, they flinch at your presence. But presence like yours isn't given. It's earned, built in the dark, refined under pressure, created in the storm, not after it. And when they say, don't push it, what they mean is, you're making us uncomfortable with your power. They don't want you to keep going, because they can barely survive your standing still. And the thing is, you haven't even shown them the full weight of what you can do. You've been quiet, strategic, surgical. You've picked your moments. You've let them sleep while you built. You've smiled while they doubted. You've stayed calm while they speculated. But that calm, it wasn't surrender. It was precision. You were calculating, preparing, waiting for alignment, for timing, for the opening that would change everything. Now, they see the results and they don't know what to call it. So they say, too smart. But what they're really saying is you learned faster than they wanted you to. You saw through illusions they still believe in. You questioned what they were told to obey. You refused to play by rules that were never made for people like you to win. And that kind of intelligence, not just academic, not just verbal, but strategic, applied, unstoppable intelligence, threatens the system they've surrendered to. You make them remember how small they allowed themselves to become. And they say, too ruthless, because you make decisions they never had the courage to make. You draw lines they were too afraid to draw. You cut ties when they still beg to be accepted. You don't flinch at discomfort, and you don't tolerate betrayal. You've seen enough to know being nice in the face of disrespect is just a slow form of self-destruction, and you're done destroying yourself for people who never deserved access in the first place. Your ruthlessness isn't cruelty. It's self-respect in motion. It's the art of protecting your time, energy, mind, and mission from being watered down. You've wasted your last apology. You've said your last maybe. You've ignored your last red flag. You've outgrown the stories that kept you small. And now, every time you say no without explaining, every time you choose purpose over popularity, every time you move in silence and execute with precision, they say, don't push it. But they're too late, because you've already pushed past every limit you were given. You pushed through the doubt, through the nights nobody saw, through the mental wars, through the betrayal, through the fear, through the silence, through the years of being overlooked, underestimated, counted out. You pushed through all of it. You've become what they told you not to become: independent, unattached, awake, focused. And once someone wakes up, truly wakes up, they never go back. So, what happens next? You keep going. You don't slow down because of whispers. You don't stall because of warnings. You don't shrink because of fear. Fear doesn't speak your language anymore. You've sat with it too long. You've heard its lies. You've walked with it beside you and still move forward. You don't fear fear. You use it. You don't run from pressure. You perform in it. That's what they see now. Not just your rise, but your control, your calm in the rise. That's what terrifies them. Anyone can climb with chaos, but it takes a different breed to climb with discipline, with silence, with focus. No wasted movement, no wasted breath. You don't need to announce your next move. The results speak louder than anything you could say. You've reached the point where they study you now. They used to mock. Now they watch, carefully, silently, hoping to understand how you did it, how you stayed unshaken, how you kept your heart clean in a dirty world, how you stayed sharp in a dull one, how you didn't fold when the pressure hit. The truth? You burned for this. You bled for this. You walked alone for this. And now that you're rising, you will not apologize for any part of the fire that built you. So here's the warning. Not for you, but for them. This isn't the final form. This is still the becoming. You're not finished. You're not done growing, evolving, winning. You haven't even hit full stride yet. You're still becoming sharper, still becoming clearer, still unlocking levels of awareness and skill that will make everything you've already done look like practice. And when that moment hits, when you go all in, fully unleashed, with no distractions, no self-doubt, no dead weight holding you back, it won't just be power. It will be domination. The kind of domination that doesn't scream, doesn't flex, doesn't beg to be seen. The kind that walks in and changes the atmosphere. The kind that doesn't ask, it takes. That doesn't compete, it eliminates. The kind of domination that ends debates. Because you were never built to compete on their level. You were built to create your own. And if they still think you're pushing it, good. Because pushing it is the only reason you're not still stuck at the start. Pushing it is the only reason you own your story now, instead of surviving in someone else's. Pushing it is the reason your name carries weight, the reason your silence shakes rooms, the reason your moves cause reactions even before they're made. You are the consequence of refusing to fold. You are the answer to every doubt. You are the proof that pain can turn into precision, that heartbreak can create heat, that rejection can evolve into results. And every time you move forward now, every calculated, calm, ruthless step, you prove one thing. The fire didn't break you, it built you. So let them keep whispering. Let them say too smart. Let them say too ruthless. Let them say don't push it, because now they know. You will. And when you do, nothing will stop it. Because what they don't realize yet is this version of you, this disciplined, focused, quietly evolving, precision-minded, fire-blooded version of you isn't even close to your final form. This is the version that was still polite, still patient, still gave time, still listened longer than you should have, still forgave more than you had to. But even this version shakes the room. Even this version sends whispers through the walls. Even this version makes people tremble with what you might do next. Imagine what happens when you stop holding back, when you stop pausing to make others comfortable, when you cut the last thread of guilt for outgrowing people who never wanted to grow, when you stop negotiating with fear, when you stop letting your past explain your future, when you walk into your next level not as a guest, but as the owner. That's the moment the world meets the unfiltered you, the uninterrupted you, the you that's no longer looking back, no longer waiting, no longer asking. And when that day comes, and it is coming, you won't be warned anymore. You'll be watched, you'll be studied, you'll be followed, but never matched. Because the truth is, they were never afraid of your failure. They were afraid of your rise, of the version of you who doesn't get distracted, who doesn't fold under pressure, who doesn't beg or chase or explain, who walks in power without permission. And now, they've met that version. Too smart? Correct. Too ruthless? Absolutely. Too dangerous to doubt, without question. So push it, number, break it, break every limit, break every doubt, break every weak pattern you've inherited, break every mold you were told to fit into, break every room that cannot handle your presence and build one that can. You weren't made to stay silent. You weren't built to stay soft. You weren't created to be accepted. You were born to be unstoppable. And that's exactly what you are now. Let the word go around, louder this time. You got smart, you got ruthless, and now you own the fire. Don't push it, too late. You already did, and there's no going back now.